Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster here, just about straight up noon California time on September 24th, 2024. A lot of 24s there in the sequence of numbers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at out there. Hope everyone's having a good day. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.7 Alaska area. We'll get to earthquake activity here in just a minute. I want to discuss first the potential for a major hurricane here slamming into the panhandle of Florida, western coast area of Florida as well. Come on the day on Thursday. This is gearing up for Helene. Now, current information here. Let's see what we got for the current status. 45 miles per hour. Sustained winds, gaining strength here. Current position right here in this X around that little darker yellow circle area. Again, Tropical Storm Helene. This advisory put out at 2 p.m. Eastern time, so it's about an hour old there. Moving off to the west-northwest at about 12 miles per hour. It is expected to get caught up here and move to the northeast here towards Florida and turn into a major hurricane. This is M here, indicating the major hurricane status. Now, majority of the model is still showing a Category 3, a low-end Category 3, but still, Category 3 is fairly strong hurricane. And some of these models, these forecast model intensity guidance charts are showing even up into the Category 4 strength hurricane. So over the next 24 hours is going to be a little interesting to watch here in terms of how fast this could strengthen. Global plus hurricane models here showing the path of this Tropical Storm Helene right now. It is going to get caught up with another low pressure that's sitting up here and kind of wobble it back to the west and spread out some rainfall, a lot of rainfall across the area. Now the concern here, obviously, aside from the wind and whatnot, is the extreme storm surge that's associated with any tropical system. And it can create a lot of havoc out there on those low-lying areas. Florida, no exception there when it comes to lowland areas and the storm surge that takes place during the hurricane activity. Here's the expected or forecasted rainfall totals here. Now look at that. Some of these regions along the western coast of Florida seeing upwards of anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of rain, maybe a little bit more here across the panhandle. Depending on where the brunt of the eastern eye wall is, that's normally the strongest area in terms of convection. That will, in turn, basically be the area of heavy rainfall, which we got to watch out for. There is potential flash flooding issues out here as well in the red. Got a moderate risk of at least 40% here across areas of around Tallahassee, Florida, even all the way up into the Georgia area. Peak storm surge is another one, right? I was just talking about 10 to 15 feet. That's fairly high here across this area. Nothing to mess around with. There are a number of sites that are showing evacuation zones. For example, we got this FloridaDisaster.org. It will give you the information on areas that are underneath mandatory evacuation. There's a mandatory map. There's a layout here for the folks there locally that are wondering if they have to evacuate or not. Definitely good to take heed to the local government on what they're stating because this hurricane is coming regardless. It's not getting veered off path anywhere. This is headed straight to the Florida area. And again, FloridaDisaster.org has a simple layout here, an evacuation order map that one can look at if they're uncertain on if they need to evacuate or not. But look at that, 10 to 15 feet across this area of Florida. That's pretty significant. 5 feet elsewhere here to the west. Down south here, looks like 6 to 10 feet. And, of course, as you get a little bit further south, less storm surge, but still, that even though the hurricane's off of the coast here, it can stir up these waves quite nicely and bring in a lot of storm surge. I've seen it myself out there in Texas during a couple of hurricanes. Very lowland area, water can flow in fairly deep Now this is 10 to 15 feet above ground level here. So be on guard, folks. That's no joke. We'll continue to check back on this. It is expected to arrive on Thursday. Thursday is a time period here. Look at this map right here. As a major hurricane, landfall at 8 p.m. Thursday. Now, of course, the outer bands are going to reach the inland area or the coast area much sooner than 8 p.m., but this is when the brunt, the strongest portion of the hurricane will make that landfall area. Moving off to the west-northwest right now, but that's going to change as it enters into the Gulf. Much warmer waters here, cooking like a stew out there in the Gulf, and it's just going to feed that hurricane, and we'll see how strong it's going to get. Right now, models are forecasting a fairly solid moderate 3, Category 3 hurricane for this area. All right, earthquake activity. See what else we got here for land movement. Last 24 hours here. Of course, it's going to be that largest 6.0 from yesterday. Today, so far, it's going to be a 5.2 down here in the Chile area. We're still seeing a little bit of earthquake activity up here at the shallow region of the Peru-Chile Trench. Yesterday and over the last couple days has seen a deeper trend of earthquakes here into this area. Notice that one from yesterday, 5-pointer underneath Argentina, 90 miles deep, and then even a deeper one there late last night, 116 miles deep for a 3.7. So things are getting strained up here across this area. Obviously, these deep quakes don't make strain disappear. If anything, it adds further strain up here across the subduction zone level, where we get the bigger quakes. We're talking about the mega quake activity. And of course, this area down here south around the Chile area is where they seen the 1961 9.5 earthquake, the largest ever recorded. I believe it was 1961. Well before my time, but a big earthquake, no doubt. Who's to say if there's not enough strain built up out here across another segment of the Peru-Chile Trench that's capable of producing a large earthquake like that. Goodness. All right, far as West Coast goes, California lighten up slightly down here on the southern end of the Elsinore Fault. Not a big earthquake swarm, just a little bit of a small microquake activity down here. A look at the West Coast, 2.5 and above. Well, that removes all the earthquakes out here. From today, anyway. A couple there yesterday, Nevada and also the San Joaquin Valley, which I don't even know if they've reviewed yet. 2.9 Parkwood. That's an odd reading there. It's 0 miles below the surface. It has not been reviewed. What's going on there, USGS? We got to get that going there. It's an earthquake. Now, if it's a false earthquake, it shouldn't linger on the website here for days at a time. Well, 24 hours now. This should be taken care of. Let me see what they have here for magnitudes. Obviously, it looks like it's some type of legit earthquake. The seismograph stations here were picking it up. But it's still underneath an automatic status right here. If you look at the overview, which means that it has not been reviewed by a seismologist, and then from there they can adjust the depth or magnitude or location accordingly. But that's just a little odd. 0 kilometers below surface. So hopefully they get to that. Kind of curious. So aside from those two earthquakes above 2.5 yesterday, all of this out here today is microquake activity. Nothing of any major significance going on out here right now. There's still a little bit of swarming out here around the Loma Linda area. Some from yesterday, a little bit from today as well. Around the Fontana area, a small amount of swarming going on here as well. This is the region, a newer region here that has had a little bit of swarming activity yesterday and today, and that's separate from the swarming that we've seen here a little bit further to the southwest. In the same Fontana swarm region, they call it, that we had in the last 4 weeks or so. And a cluster going on here over the last couple weeks up against the San Andreas Fault as well that, we just got to watch here. It's Right now it's quiet. I'll be down here on Thursday investigating a couple different areas, looking at the landslide area activity around the Rancho Palos Verdes area, where it's kind of a big deal. A lot of homes lost here last year because of basically falling off here, off of these cliffs. I've never been down here in this area. I looked at a few pictures, and it's absolutely beautiful. Upper class area with a lot of nice homes, but I'm going to be down there looking at some of the infrastructure and looking at they've recently had to do some rebuilding of the pipes, the water pipes, sewer pipes underneath the ground, underneath the ground because of the shifting of the land out there. So I'm going to go out there, talk to a few folks there, if I can keep my voice. It's always good to have a drink right next to you, just in case. All right, so I'll be checking that out. Also, the Malibu Coast Fault up here, Southern California right now. Again, just a handful of smaller microquakes out there. Really nothing big going on that I could see. Across this area here of the mountain range, the Yakima Ridge and a couple other mountain ranges, most of this activity here from yesterday, a little swarm, I would say. Last 30 days coming up on about 100 earthquakes in this area. Now that's a little bit of earthquake activity, and it wasn't from a 4.5 that started it all off. It's basically just a swarm of various magnitude earthquakes out there. Nothing big. The largest in this sequence of earthquakes there are 2.9, and that did not start off the swarm. This is just right in the middle of them with all these other quakes. So a little uncertain onto what's going on out there. Was told there's a thrust and fold belt out here across this area of Montana. You can see all the ridges going on here in that type of pattern. A little bit different, but compared to the typical mountain range building here throughout time of the Cascades, you can see these folds out here across the land, which is obviously indicative of some stress, right? Plate tectonic stress. Nothing big going on there for now. Mount St. Helens, or Mount Adams, excuse me. Mount Adams, a little 2.0 today. Very shallow earthquake. Don't really see too much earthquake activity out there at Mount Adams. Let's check out tremor map here tonight, or from yesterday. 331 epicenters, mainly across this area of Oregon. Not bad in terms of numbers here. We'll have to watch that, see if this doesn't turn into a bigger swarm of tremor activity. Now, this is a slow slippage, so to speak, between the two plates as one subducts underneath the other. One is overriding the other, right? And we get these tremors, these low-frequency vibrations being picked up as they slowly move past one another. Of course, when that occurs, you get, the tremors, but also upstream, further stress adding on to the already strained Cascadia subduction zone. Hawaii, not a whole lot going on out there for now. I mean, there's a lot of earthquake activity here from yesterday, but far as the eruption status goes and any other newer activity, I'm not seeing anything of abnormal activity there today. It's possible we could be venturing into a little quiet period here of activity as far as the eruption goes, unless we see a further larger push of magma from below. Things are relatively stabilized right now since the eruption ended here a couple days ago, and it was only a very minor eruption. You can see it. So I zoom in here to this area of the Middle East Rift Zone, right here in this little pink, it's kind of pink salmon area color. There's a couple fissures that opened up here. Started off with this area, and then it worked its way further to the east here, where we've seen one of the larger lava flows, but really that's not even all that big of a flow. So I'm a little uncertain on if this is just going to be a band-aid here for now, and then it's going to build up and maybe move somewhere else, or it might just erupt in the same region here again. Who knows? But for now, somewhat quiet. Deformation pattern here at the summit shows a slow, gradual inflation event, but remember, we lost a lot of volume of magma from the summit off to the upper east and middle east rift zone recently. We're not even nowhere near what we were at. So a little quietness, I have a feeling, is going on there for Hawaii for right now. New Zealand here, that earthquake from yesterday, 4.3, 122 miles deep. Take your pick. It's either going to be Kermadec Trench here or the northern edge of the Hikurangi subduction zone. It's pretty much right in between there. Either way, that's a fairly deep earthquake. And a little bit of adjustment here, a little bit of shallow adjustment following that 4.3 from yesterday. Seen a 3-pointer out there today, so continue to keep an eye on it. New Zealand's eventually going to adjust. 5-pointer around Papua New Guinea. Older activity here across Japan, although up north here, a little bit further up along the subduction zone, there's a little swarm of activity. USGS not picking up on it. It's more so up here across the Japan Trench, some 3s. Even it looks like a 4.2 in the mix there as well. Aleutian Trench fairly quiet aside from some movement yesterday. Over here across the northern, well, that's way up here around the Andaman Sea. A couple 4s there from yesterday as well. Mediterranean looks like it's calmed down a little bit yesterday and the day before, rocking and rolling with a whole lot of earthquake activity on a broad scale. Nothing big, but just various swarms across many areas here of the Mediterranean region. And today, a little bit different. A lot of red rings here, indicative of older quakes here from yesterday, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that. 4.6 down into the South Sandwich Trench area, fairly recent earthquake. And there's all our cluttering going on there across the area of the Peru-Chile Trench. A lot of older activity and a lot of newer activity, a lot of deep and some shallow adjustment as well. So this is one of those patterns here where it looks as though it may be brewing something bigger. I'm kind of curious here. Let's see what we got. I want to check for some large-scale activity here in the last 24 years or so. Just along the Peru-Chile Trench southern end here. The last one was a 7.4. That's roughly in that same area. Let me see here. Yeah, that's somewhat in that same area as where we're seeing the ongoing earthquake activity right now. That was back in July. Prior to that, 6.6. A couple other 6s in there as well. It almost seems like we get a 6-pointer or so a couple times a year. So far this year, we've only seen, there's that 7.4 up north, but goodness, years past there, looks like they have a 6-pointer every 3 or 4 of them every year. 7.6 down here back in 2016. 7-pointer right in the middle of those back in 2015. 8.3, 2015. That's why I'm saying we can get these big earthquakes here at any time. 8.8, 2010. The Peru-Chile Trench is a dynamic area here, a major subduction zone that's influenced by the Nazca Plate. You got the spreading seafloor center here out in the East Pacific Rise. Puts a strain here on the Nazca Plate, which subducts underneath the South America region here that creates the Peru-Chile Trench. And over the past, past 7 days, a handful of earthquakes out here in these fracture zones, including one late last night at 4.8. So things are definitely stirring up out there across that region. Who knows? Could be looking at maybe another 8-pointer out here somewhere along that subduction zone, which is pretty lengthy. It's not just limited here to that area I showed you. It extends all the way up north here into the Ecuador-Colombian Trench area. Ecuador-Colombian Trench. Major subduction zone. Yellowstone National Park, double check that real quick just on the Maple Creek seismo. Not a whole lot going on at all. Some wind noise it looks like there from yesterday that I showed you guys in the update last night. I'm not seeing any wind out there right now. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity as either out here. So maybe 1, 2, 3 little spiky, very spiky earthquakes, but in general, those are, I don't even know if they're showing up. Looks like maybe the USGS reporting some other earthquake activity outside the region, but those are all small. Majority of them below the 1.0 magnitude range. Yellowstone sleeps for now. That's a good thing. The rest of the country out here, as you can see, fairly quiet. And we'll just kind of watch it today, see what happens. Space weather activity. Things are kicking up. I knew that was going to happen here. It's about, it well called for. 25% chance elevated flare threat out there today. As these sunspots, there's a number of them on the southeastern quadrant of the sun, and even a couple more out on the far side of the eastern limb that's coming around view that warrants the 25% chance for the X flare. M flare is 55, C flare around 99% chance or so. Now looking at the UV filter here of the sun, shows a fairly giant sunspot area on the southeastern limb. Let me show you the complexity here. 38, 36, and it looks like we have a newer sunspot up here that has popped up out of the blue. So we're looking at a train of sunspots, starting with this one here. The more advanced, complex one is going to be this area right here. But behind that, there's another one on the far side watch. You can see another large regional sunspot that will be peeking around here in a day or so, I believe. But we'll keep an eye on these regions here. They're advancing and growing into a trail, kind of like a train of sunspots that could harbor some decent flares here in the coming days. We'll have to watch that pretty closely. No major aurora forecast for now. Maybe a near hit or a near miss as we look at the forecast here for tonight and tomorrow. That's going to be very dependent on if we this is for the 25th, just a real quick maybe G1 class storm, UTC time of the 25th. So anytime between tonight and tomorrow night, could even happen during the day, we might get a shot of some plasma that was shot off from it was way out there on the southeastern limb pointing away from Earth. So I don't think it's going to hit us, but apparently the Space Weather Prediction Center thinks that we may see a little shot of that plasma cloud here on Earth over the next couple nights, but I don't think so. We'll keep an eye on it. Right now the aurora activity is very minimal. No sign of anything coming in. Severe weather today, mainly out here across portions of the eastern area of the U.S. and a little bit there in Oklahoma as well. A tornado potential in a broad region here across various states, including Ohio and Kentucky area, a little bit down into Tennessee as well, and the Carolina region. That's for tornado. Wind and hail threats out there, as you can see, kind of bounces back and forth there between some wind and a little bit of hail out there in Oklahoma. Texas and Oklahoma can get the hail. They know how to make hail pretty large. I've known for a fact that can get pretty large with those thunderstorms out there. And a little bit of tornado activity out there, potential. So just a heads up there across this area of Ohio. And again, it covers like 5 or 6 different states. Goodness. All right, folks, we'll continue to keep an eye on earthquake activity. Also an eye on Tropical Storm Helene there, which is expected to be a major hurricane as we head towards Thursday. Now we're going to watch this pretty closely. It should rapidly strengthen here once it gets past this land mass, this little channel area, and that will determine how strong it gets. It doesn't have a whole lot of time here. So once it gets past here, it should rapidly intensify. Let's check out the numerical model here real quick, the GFS model. Yeah, see, it tightens up pretty quickly and heads to that area where the majority of the mandatory evacuation orders are taking place. So that's a fairly big deal. Once again, there's many sites that monitor the natural hazards and disasters. FloridaDisaster.org is one of the emergency management sites for updates and whatnot, and what you can do following a hurricane for as far as help with recovery. They got that activity on this page as well. So FloridaDisaster.org is the website. There's your evacuation order map and whatnot. Many different layers you can access on there as well. So if you're out there in that region, take heed. There is a big storm coming your way. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. I got quite a bit of stuff to do here with the school. Right now, I've got some lectures and whatnot I got to get caught up on. So have a good day. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe, folks.